Well, although it's a little different than I thought, that's how I felt after they communicated the order to Testarossa. To pretend that we're in a panic, the atmosphere just made it impossible to say that. No, and rightly so, when you think about it. It's not natural at all to pretend to be panicked in order to show everyone how good the Demon Lord is. I think that's the right way to respond. That being said, Testarossa is so reliable. She seems to be able to show the Empire my majesty in a highbrow way. Did Testarossa mean what she just said about wiping out the Imperial Army? No, how is that possible? But Testarossa is just like Diablo. Which means she's definitely a problem child, most likely serious. I've been watching from the sidelines because it's funny, but it's better to bottom out with Gobta too. Well, Testarossa isn't really angry yet. With that in my head, I opened my mouth. Is Ranga here? Yes. Ranga burrowed out of my shadow. The tail wagging around is so cute. So much so that I wanted to lie down and snooze in that ball of hair, but I tried hard to hold back. Ranga, you stay with Gobta and protect him if anything happens. Ranga's tail came to a sudden halt. After a brief silence, he replied in a tone of great disappointment. Yes, master. So what's the best time to leave? It always felt like this reaction was like a little kid who didn't want to get past it. For a moment just now he seemed to notice what I was thinking, but my orders would not change. Since the fighting power of the Empire was unknown, it was disturbing to rely on Gobta alone. Please go right now. Then I'll be on my way. A droopy-headed Ranga was about to leave. You want to part with me that much? Please. It's true that Gobta has become more reliable, but it's reassuring if you're with him. Although feeling a little sorry for him, this time please cheer him up. Thinking that way I said that to Ranga. And then, right then and there. Put it on me, master. So responsive was Ranga, full of energy and glowing all over. The lack of domineering footsteps became heroic because of my words. In addition to this, Ranga will also use space shift. He should catch up before Gobta and the others set off. It's a relief for the time being. First of all, regarding the deal with the Empire, most of them will break up. At that point we will declare war and expect it to start immediately. What should we do to get everyone in formation then? There is no doubt that there will be a war with the other side, according to the words and reactions of Testarossa. Honestly, I'd like to avoid fighting the other side, but that's just not possible. Since they have sent their troops so far into our country, I don't think they will come back empty-handed. At least once against them, to show them the power of our country. But the other side's fighting ability is unknown, they're a magic tank unit. We are also very likely to suffer significant harm if we accidentally adopt the wrong strategy. Operational plans must be decided carefully. It's certainly a time to bring out Benimaru. If Testarossa decides to go to war after dealing with the other side, the city will be immediately isolated inside the labyrinth. In that case, I think it would be better if you called on Ramrus first. Right. Things have come to this point where we are about to go to war, and she shouldn't be bored. It always feels wrong to think of war as a form of entertainment. In places like this, monsters think very differently than humans. And after that. At this stage, we will be defending the best defense facility in the maze, as planned. That's on our turf, and I'm sure I can take the reins. The problem is with the Green Legion. As a matter of common sense, the battle is too great. But also the ability to treat the enemy as a giant object, and the thing called a magic tank as a magic creature. That would be to our advantage. As for the accompanying supply force, it was nothing to write home about. Benimaru's confident attitude had shown that. I do think it should not be, however Benimaru's words are also very telling. Anyway, I decided to hear what the follow-up said first. However, if troops are deployed on a large scale, they may become the victims of the magic tank artillery. Already trying to calculate the power of the magic tank cannon based on the images known to Lord Rimuru, the Green Legion should not be able to hold out. Therefore, the first one to be sent to confront the Imperial Army could only choose the Wolf Rider troops. Huh. Wouldn't that be too much of a strain? Should I challenge myself on 100 horses? Yeah. I was going to arrange it this way at first and see what happens. If the enemy's magic tanks are as I expected, all our forces will be able to overcome them, and if they exceed expectations, then the battle plan must be redrawn. So that being said, whatever the outcome, it's important to hit it off with the other side first. It's not fun to add victims in this situation. With that, Benimaru blandly explained. The implication of this is that he intends to take Gobta and test them. I'm afraid that one careless mistake will turn all the Wolf Rider troops under Gobta into dead soldiers. But Benimaru was unfazed. He thought it was the most efficient thing to do and made a cold judgment. Worst case scenario, what will happen to them, and Gobta? I have already told them that they should judge for themselves and run away with the shadow movement. So that's it, is that the basis for keeping the Green Legion in place? Benimaru predicted the performance of the magic tank, that is from my memory, with knowledge as the basis. But all this knowledge comes from television and doesn't feel very accurate. Having said that, I have the formidable companion of the King of Wisdom, Master Raphael, and although those memories are ambiguous, I think the Master should be able to calculate the specifications very correctly. Benimaru's predictions and Master Raphael, the King of Wisdom, had turned out to be only slightly wrong, and this part of the battle plan was sure to go according to Benimaru's view. At least it would be more appropriate than what I, a layman, had in mind. Benimaru's plan is as follows. First, while the war was going on, the 100 cavalry would come together to launch a surprise attack. Use the high-speed maneuver feature. Irregular action does not give the magic tank gun a chance to aim, so that they don't suffer straight blows. Since it was a minority unit, it could respond to any situation it faced. If you're lucky, you'll also be able to fight and run to catch the enemy. Listening to the instructions made me realize that it made a lot of sense, too. If you're afraid, you lose. That's what Benimaru seemed to say to the Green Legion. Of course, no one knows what will happen on the battlefield. It is also possible that the enemy may not play his cards right and may miss the point. Although it is possible to guard against a direct hit without losing one's life, such a thing cannot be determined until the moment of the final showdown. So I want all of them to abide completely by one thing, and that is to withdraw immediately if anything happens. However, escape is a last resort. Let the majesty of Lord Rimuru be stained. I must not let that happen. Compared to the Empire, the Benimaru was even scarier. Don't force them. It's impossible. It is the proper etiquette that one must exert in oneself in order to achieve victory. Only to see Benimaru respond in such a way, showing a bright smile. He didn't have the slightest confusion on his face and felt handsome, but I was in a complicated mood. On the one hand, I can understand the meaning of Benimaru's words, but on the other hand, I feel like I'm saying, there's no reason to sacrifice some people for this. Actually, my prestige really doesn't matter at all. If you have the talent to protect the majesty of your country, but you have to sacrifice to protect that majesty, isn't that putting the cart before the horse? Whichever partner it is, I don't want them to get hurt. Just be prepared for the worst and be ready to teleport the 3rd Legion at any time, and let them be reinforcements. If it was me going into battle myself, there would have been no such fear. I began to feel uneasy in my heart. Lieutenant General Geist, the head of the Mecha Legion and the beloved Lieutenant General of Calgrio, is in charge of the Magic Tank Division on this expedition. He was a muscular man of about 35 years of age. He stood proudly at the head of a state-of-the-art instructional vehicle configured in the rear, enjoying the atmosphere on the battlefield. The situation in the large forest around them was unchanged, and no one stood in their way. Geist, who was already used to this situation, began to think that this war was probably going to make him famous again. The invincible kingdom of the dwarves for 1,000 years, the armed kingdom of Dworgen, is ruled by the heroic King Gazel, and will be brought down by my own hand. You can't find anything more painful than that in the sky. Geist will be applauded by the nations this time. A new hero will be born, and he will go down in history. Just going and dreaming about it makes Geist's heart ache. The man who defeated the heroic King Gazel, the title will be his. This will happen in the near future and is bound to come. After all, the magic-guided tank division led by Lieutenant General Geist had the corresponding combat power that made him so sure. 2,000 magic-guided tanks were neatly arranged. There was a plain at the foot of the mountain, and there were 20 magic tanks in the horizontal and vertical lines. Such a magnificent sight pleased Geist greatly. Yet this is just like the opponent's strategy. Geist thought to himself that he wasn't going to lose to the close knights. The reason I didn't make the cut was simply because I didn't get a chance to compete in the ranking battle. Since I've been assigned to this division, it means I'm on a military operation at all times. Such and such, he thought unpleasantly. Of course it will be a very high post. In the Empire, it is a choice between one of 10,000, or the upper class. His status is equal to that of a high-class nobleman. He has a unique technique called player, which is the ability to control the sound and analyze the situation by listening to a variety of sounds. He is also able to use special fluctuations to launch specific instructions, so that even in the midst of chaos, he can command his own army. This is the force best suited to command the legions, but it's not the only thing worth mentioning. The unique skill of the player also conceals a vicious attack. I'll admit that the near guards were strong. But that was because they had the legendary great equipment given by His Majesty the Emperor's Imperial Court. Obviously I'm the only one who deserves those things. With the legendary equipment, he can also earn the highest honor of single digits, the confidence of a Gestalt. Despite thinking about this all the time, Geist didn't take the combat operation lightly. The smell of the forest has changed. The surrounding voices suddenly broke off. Finding this out, Geist ordered to the whole army. Interrupt camping preparations and go on alert immediately. After giving the order, Geist focused even more, turning his attention to the patch of forest to his left. The sounds of birds and animals are gone, and there are no bug calls. There was always a sense of tension. And not only that, there was the sound of tiny footsteps. On top of that there was the sound of leaves scraping closer and closer. The distance is long, but it's fast. Is the other side planning to attack by surprise? It's not a bad move, but it's a shame your opponent isn't that easy. Geist secretly snickered. Analyzing the sounds heard, the number of people approaching here was about 100. I heard that the Demon Lord's army was gathering in the inn-town from which they had marched. This proves that Geist's plan is going well. The Demon Lord's army had been stationed in the inn-town, and they missed the main body of the Imperial Army. As the army of up to 700,000 approached, one wondered how panicked those monsters would be. Imagining the situation made Geist laugh wickedly. The sound was approaching a distance of 10 kilometers. The enemy was few in number and had gathered in a small area, approaching here. As long as they don't come into the open, they think it's okay to take trees as shields. Too naive. Let's give them a greeting. Only the command vehicles in which Geist travels are equipped with this special product, but Geist does not shy away from it. He didn't hesitate to fill the cannon and keep the muzzle pointed at the forest. Instructions were then given to the battle group. This is just in case, if the enemy is still alive, they will meet it immediately. Left squad, turn counterclockwise. The soldiers were originally preparing tents for camping, however they were about 30 kilometers from the Dwarven Kingdom, and were on guard at all times. As soon as they heard Geist's order, they got to work on hurriedly packing up their things and putting them into the wagon being towed by the magic tank. It wasn't long before everyone had finished preparing for battle. In time to catch Geist's order, the left column up to 500 vehicles all floated into the air and headed for the forest. And just like that, Geist, they were ready to go. As if always waiting for this moment. A magical creature appeared in the depths of the dense forest. With 2 horns on their heads, they are monstrous creatures with the appearance of wolves. That huge body made people stare blankly. At 5 meters tall, even with the magic tank, it was no less impressive. I remember in the report given by the intelligence agency, there was a mention of this magical creature called Ranga. Seems to be teased as the Demon Lord's pet, but his strength is equivalent to A+. That's a lot to take in. There's only one. What exactly is the plan? No, it turns out. Geist wondered what their purpose was. Since it came alone, it was not to fight. The purpose is to warn us, I'm afraid. That's right, in order to protect their position as monster lords, they cannot lose to their enemies in their war. Haha, that's stupid. You are going to send a master like Ranga to oppress your enemies and suppress your opponent's fighting spirit. That's how Geist interpreted it. It seems that Demon Lord Rimuru's pride is high. Do you want to preserve the prestige of the Demon Lord, even if you give up the advantage of a sneak attack? Speaking of which, Geist laughed aloud. The other generals laughed along with it, and the soldiers thus ceased to be nervous, and only remained appropriately nervous. Ranga came nearby. He's got a leisurely pace and doesn't look like he's going to fight. It looked like Geist was right in guessing that the other side was aiming to deal with them. Coming to a place a stone's throw away from Geist and the others, about 10 meters away, Ranga finally stopped in his tracks. A woman sat sideways with her body on his back and then jumped gracefully. Not a sound, not a whisper. Then walked unthinkingly ahead of Geist and the others. Seeing that beauty unlike all human women, a chill ran down Geist's back, like being held against an ice knife. How could? This woman's voice is not quite right. It's a heartbeat sound, but the melody is eerie. There was also the sound of blood flowing. Yet compared to the human voice, it sounded quieter and faster. No, it's too fast. If the blood flowed at this rate, the human body could not bear it at all. Ranga was long gone from Geist's eyes. He kept looking at the woman. Pure white long hair flowed down beautifully, adding to that beauty. But the other part was wearing serious military uniforms that didn't match that beauty. The lower half of the body was worn like riding pants, with a rounded, slow swelling curve in the thigh area. There was another man riding on Ranga's back, and Geist didn't bother to notice him. That was because the woman exuded enough eerie scent to make Geist put all his attention on it. What is she? The intelligence agency gave the information without this figure. This woman is more dangerous than Ranga, who is a main subordinate, right? Geist really wants to rebuke the intelligence services. But the person who wanted to complain to him wasn't there. At the moment, the appearance of the Demon Lord's close attendant was more important than that. In order to hide the fact that his aura had been overpowered, he spoke to the woman in a tone full of majesty. You're a messenger from the Demon Lord Rimuru, are you not? The timing of the contact was sooner than expected, but the Demon Lord's minions were pretty good. So, what's the matter with coming here? Seeing Geist ask such a question, the woman responded with a voluptuous smile. Greetings everyone, my name is Testarossa. This land is governed by the great Demon Lord Rimuru, of whom I am a confidant. So, as to what you're here for today. When that was said, the smile on the woman's lips, Testarossa, deepened. It was a very wicked smile. If you leave like this, I'll leave you alone. But I am not at liberty to continue the invasion. I have come this time to deliver these words from our Lord. Those eyes, redder than blood, glittered, and Testarossa declared so. Geist held his breath for it. She just waved her hand and things happened in a flash. A wall of flame appeared 1 meter in front of the frontmost battle group. The wall of flames disappeared in a flash, and the molten scorch marks on the ground became crystalline, drawing a straight line. I think I've made it very clear. Once you cross that line, you're dead. Don't come in without being fairly aware. Well, take care, everyone. After bowing extremely gracefully, Testarossa said so. The next thing you know, you look like you've lost interest, and you turn your head and leave without looking back. Testarossa walked away. This means that the bargaining is over. I can't believe you don't think of me. What do you think I am? And in the face of such a large army, it would be too arrogant to bluff like that. Geist was furious. It's as if his beliefs so far have been smashed to pieces and lost their cool in a flash. How dare you? The messenger's attitude had set Geist on fire, and the fear that had just been embraced in his heart disappeared. Geist thus made an error of judgment. It's 5 meters from Testarossa. It's right in the middle ground between Ranga and Geist and the rest. How can you just go back unscathed? By analogy, Testarossa's attitude was an insult to the Empire, and Geist considered it enough to justify war. Can you hear me? Yes. Communications are good. Shoot that arrogant woman through her head. Afterwards the reverse direction was reversed, allowing 20 magic tanks to come to the front and fire their shells together. Let the monsters that lurk in the forest see the power of our empire. Geist ordered quietly through his player. Snipers dedicated to the command vehicle took the lead in responding. They immediately raised their sniper rifles to lock on to Testarossa. Then the silent bullets were fired through the magic gun, which was specially designed for long range. The bullet is wrapped in the elemental magic great flaming sphere, but what happens to those if they are launched inside? The moment the bullet is fired and passes over the border. Testarossa turned her head. That face was very wicked and very beautiful. Next, Geist widened his eyes in surprise. The vicious bullet, which was supposed to run through Testarossa, was blocked by her slender index finger. It was like treating it as a boring toy in general. That's your answer, isn't it? Very good. This answer is great. Then let's go head to head. Leaving this to go and rendezvous with Ranga, Testarossa never looked back. Immediately afterwards, she left the scene as if nothing had just happened. Geist almost went into a panic mode, but he pressed on by sheer force of will. Fear and humiliation are put on the scale to be measured, and in the end it is humiliation that wins the day. Lieutenant General Geist, what should we do? What should we do? Don't panic. Don't let that illusion fool you. We are the glorious Imperial Army. To win the victory for His Majesty the Emperor. Let's go ahead with the plan and start firing the shells. In conjunction with Geist's loud orders, the battle group listed on the left simultaneously moved in. They didn't take the warning seriously at all. In order to keep a proper distance from the vehicles in front, the magic tank units began to advance as they crossed the state line.